He went to the market to buy meat and ended up buying an Apache widow. Arif woke up to the soft light of morning streaming through his bedroom window. The sun was just beginning to rise, casting a warm, golden glow across his small, cozy home. The smell of fresh bread from the neighbor's kitchen floated through the air, mixing with the cool morning breeze. Today felt like any other day, yet Arif had one simple mission on his mind. He needed to go to the market to buy meat for his family. It wasn't a complicated task, but somehow, in Arif's life, even the simplest things had a way of turning into small adventures. After quickly washing his face and brushing his teeth, Arif dressed in his usual attire, a loose cotton shirt and worn-out trousers that had seen many trips to the market before. He glanced at the small wooden clock on the wall, ticking steadily, and smiled. Perfect timing, he thought. The market won't be too crowded yet, and I'll get the best cuts of meat before anyone else. He grabbed a small cloth bag from the kitchen counter and filled it with a few coins and some notes carefully saved over the week. His wife Lena appeared at the doorway with a bright smile. "Don't forget the fresh meat for lunch," she reminded him, her voice cheerful. "And remember, try not to get distracted by anything else. We have visitors coming over later." Arif chuckled. "Don't worry, I'll be quick." "Just meat, nothing more." Lena raised her eyebrows, smiling knowingly. "You say that every time." Arif laughed and waved goodbye, stepping out of the house. The streets were quiet but slowly waking up. Vendors were setting up their stalls, arranging fresh vegetables, spices, and fruits with careful hands. The aroma of baked bread and frying snacks mingled in the air. He could hear the distant sounds of a rooster crowing and children laughing as they walked to school. The market was just a 10-minute walk from his home, but Arif enjoyed the journey. He liked observing the small details. The old man sweeping the street with a worn broom, the cat stretching lazily under a tree, and the cheerful greetings exchanged between neighbors. Each morning, the market was like a stage where life's tiny stories unfolded, and Arif was always eager to see what might happen next. As he entered the market, the atmosphere changed. The place was alive with energy. Vendors shouted out their prices, trying to attract customers. A spice seller waved his hand, offering fragrant cardamom and cumin. A fruit seller proudly displayed bright red apples and shiny oranges, while a few children ran around laughing and playing tag between the stalls. Arif's eyes scanned the market, looking for the familiar meat stall. It was run by an old man named Bashir, who had been selling meat here for more than 20 years. Bashir was known for his cheerful demeanor and for always having the freshest meat in town. Arif waved and Bashir waved back, his face breaking into a wide grin. "Good morning, Arif. Come to see what I have today," Bashir called out. Yes, I need the best meat for my family," Arif replied, smiling. Bashir chuckled. "You always want the best. Let me show you something special today." As Arif approached the stall, he noticed the rows of meat neatly arranged, glistening under the morning sun. The smell was rich and fresh, making his stomach rumble. He examined the cuts carefully, trying to pick the ones that looked perfect for the meal he had in mind. Bashir, noticing his careful inspection, gave a knowing nod. "You have a keen eye, my friend. That's why your family always eats the best," Bashir said proudly. Arif laughed. "I just don't want them complaining later. You know how picky Lena can be." While he was negotiating the price for a few cuts of meat, Arif's attention was drawn to a small crowd gathered near the entrance of the market. Curiosity piqued. He turned slightly and noticed a woman standing there, surrounded by trinkets and small, colorful objects displayed on a blanket. She had a calm, dignified presence that seemed to quiet the bustling crowd around her. Her dark hair framed her face perfectly, and her eyes held a quiet sadness, as if she had seen many things in her life. She was an unusual sight in this market, and Arif felt a strange pull toward her. Something about her seemed mysterious, but not threatening. He glanced at Bashir, who was busy with another customer, and then back at the woman. She smiled softly at him, and for a moment the noise of the market seemed to fade. "Good morning," she said in a gentle voice. "Would you like to see my trinkets?" Arif blinked, slightly taken aback. He had come just for meat, but there was something intriguing about the woman and her quiet presence. Maybe just a quick look," he said, trying to sound casual. She nodded, her smile warm but mysterious. The trinkets she displayed were strange yet fascinating. Small wooden carvings, colorful beads, and tiny handmade ornaments. Arif picked up a small carving, turning it over in his hands. "They are made with care," she said softly. "Each one tells a story." Arif was genuinely impressed. He had never seen such delicate work before. He smiled. "They're beautiful. You must be very talented." The woman nodded, a hint of sadness in her eyes. "I am from far away. I try to share a little of my world with those who are willing to see." Arif didn't quite understand her words, but he felt a strange connection. Perhaps it was curiosity. Perhaps it was the feeling of being drawn into something new and unexpected. He glanced down at his meat, then back at the woman, wondering if he should continue with his simple errand or let himself explore this new encounter. As he pondered, she stepped closer, holding a small wooden figure in her hands. "Sometimes life brings surprises when you least expect them," she said mysteriously. Arif laughed nervously, unsure how to respond. "Yes, I suppose it does." The woman's smile widened and she offered him the figure. "Take this. It will remind you that even ordinary days can become extraordinary." Arif hesitated, then accepted it. The moment felt strange yet exciting, as if he had just stepped into a story he didn't yet understand. He thanked her, then returned to Bashir to complete his purchase, but his mind kept drifting back to the mysterious woman and the unusual items she had shown him. With the meat carefully packed and the small wooden figure in his pocket, Arif began walking back home. The market was still buzzing with life, but now it felt different. Something had shifted. The ordinary morning errand to buy meat had turned into a small adventure, one filled with curiosity, wonder, and the promise of unexpected encounters. By the time he reached his street, Arif was smiling to himself. He didn't yet know what surprises lay ahead, but he felt a sense of excitement he hadn't felt in a long time. Today, a simple trip to the market had become more than just an errand. It was the beginning of a story that would soon unfold in ways he could never have imagined. And as he stepped into his home, greeted by the warm scent of spices and the cheerful chatter of his children, Arif realized that sometimes, even the simplest tasks in life could hold moments of magic, waiting for those willing to notice them. Little did Arif know, the mysterious woman at the market was not just a fleeting encounter. She was about to change his ordinary day into an extraordinary story, one he would remember for years to come. As Arif walked back home, the small wooden figure in his pocket seemed to give him a strange sense of curiosity. Its smooth surface and the way it fit perfectly in his hand made him feel as if it were a tiny talisman, guiding him towards something unexpected. The morning sun was higher now, warming the street and casting long shadows from the trees lining his neighborhood. Children ran past him, laughing and playing, and neighbors waved as they went about their routines. Everything looked ordinary, yet in Arif's mind, nothing felt quite ordinary anymore. He had barely taken a few steps when he heard soft footsteps behind him. Turning around, he noticed the same mysterious woman from the market. She was walking slowly, her gaze calm, yet something in her demeanor suggested that she wanted to speak with him. "Good morning again," she said, her voice gentle but firm. "I hope I'm not disturbing you." Arif smiled awkwardly. "Oh no, not at all. I was just on my way home." She nodded, her eyes studying him with quiet amusement. "I thought you might like to see something else, something important." Arif was puzzled but intrigued. He had come out to buy meat and return home, but somehow, this encounter was pulling him into a story he didn't yet understand. "All right, I suppose I can spare a few minutes," he said, trying to sound casual while his curiosity grew stronger. The woman led him through a narrow alley beside the market, away from the bustling crowds. The sounds of vendors shouting and carts clattering gradually faded, replaced by the softer noise of footsteps on the stone path. She stopped in front of a small, wooden cart, covered with a colorful cloth. On the cart lay more trinkets and small objects, but among them was something that immediately caught Arif's attention, a small, intricately carved box. "This belongs to me," the woman said softly. "It holds something valuable, not in gold or silver, but in meaning. It is part of my family tradition, a symbol of trust and commitment." Arif stared at the box, unsure what to say. I don't understand," he admitted. She smiled, sensing his confusion. "Sometimes, life asks us to step into situations we don't fully understand. This is one of those times." Before Arif could respond, she carefully opened the box and revealed a small, delicate ribbon tied in a loop, along with a tiny charm shaped like a bird. "This is a sign," she explained. "A sign of connection. In my culture, when someone accepts this, it is not just a simple gesture. It is a promise of respect and understanding between two people. Not ownership, not control, but recognition of each other's presence and story." Arif blinked, trying to process her words. He had never encountered anything like this. In his world, errands were simple, purchases were straightforward, and interactions were usually brief and clear. Yet here he was, holding a delicate charm, feeling as though he had accidentally stepped into a ritual he barely understood. I think I understand," he said slowly, though he was unsure if he truly did. "But I don't want to offend you. I'm just an ordinary man buying meat for my family. I don't know much about traditions like this." The woman laughed softly, a sound that seemed to lighten the tension around them. "You have nothing to fear. Many misunderstandings happen because people assume this is about ownership or control. It is not. It is about trust and acknowledgement. And yes, sometimes it looks strange to those who are unfamiliar." Arif nodded, feeling a mix of relief and continued curiosity. He had expected to come to the market, buy meat, and return home. He had not expected to be involved in something so mysterious, so delicate, and so culturally significant. Yet, as he looked at the woman, he realized he didn't feel fear. He felt respect and a desire to understand. "You don't have to do anything immediately," she continued. "But if you accept this, it will be a sign that you are willing to recognize me and my story, even if you do not fully understand it yet." Arif took a deep breath. He looked at the charm, then at the woman, and finally nodded. "All right, I accept." The woman's smile widened. "Then it is done. But remember, acceptance comes with awareness. It is not a casual matter, even if it may seem so." Arif felt a strange mixture of relief and confusion. He had accepted something meaningful, yet he barely understood what it fully meant. Still, he felt a sense of honor in participating, a sense that his ordinary life had just brushed against something extraordinary. As they spoke, a small crowd had begun to gather nearby. Some recognized the woman from the market, whispering softly among themselves, while others simply watched with curiosity. Arif felt the eyes of the townspeople on him, realizing that what he had thought was a simple, private interaction was actually noticed by others. A faint blush crept across his cheeks, but he maintained his composure, trying to appear calm and collected. The woman, sensing his discomfort, reached out and gently touched his arm. "Do not worry about what others think. What matters is the understanding between us, not the opinions of bystanders." Arif nodded, feeling reassured by her words. They continued to talk for a while, the woman explaining more about her life, her family, and the traditions she carried with her. She had lived through hardships, traveled far from her homeland, and now found herself in this small town, trying to share a piece of her culture with those willing to listen. Arif listened intently, fascinated by her stories. He realized that life was full of lessons waiting to be learned in unexpected places. A simple trip to buy meat had led him to meet someone whose life experiences were vastly different from his own, yet connected by the human capacity for understanding and respect. After some time, Arif realized that he needed to return home. The sun had climbed higher and he could hear his children calling for him from the distance. "I should go," he said reluctantly, "but thank you. I've learned a lot today." The woman nodded, her expression calm and approving. "You are welcome, Arif. Remember, the world is full of surprises. Sometimes we step into them without realizing, and sometimes those surprises teach us the most important lessons." As Arif walked away, he felt a lightness in his step, a sense that something remarkable had just occurred. He held the small charm in his hand, turning it over thoughtfully. This ordinary morning had turned into something extraordinary, and he knew that life would never feel quite as simple again. Yet, as he reached the main road leading to his neighborhood, he noticed something unexpected. The woman had followed him, not in a threatening way but with a quiet presence, maintaining a respectful distance. Arif stopped, unsure how to react. I think I should go home now," he said, trying to sound casual. The woman smiled gently. "I will go with you. Only a short distance, so that you understand the importance of what we have just shared. No more, no less." Arif nodded, accepting her company. As they walked together, he began to notice the subtle ways in which the town responded to her presence. People looked at them with curiosity and respect. It was clear that her arrival had shifted the energy of the community in a way he had not expected. Along the way, Arif's mind raced with questions. Was he truly part of a tradition he barely understood? How would his family react to this strange turn of events? And yet, a part of him felt exhilarated, realizing that life was full of unexpected lessons and connections waiting to be discovered. By the time they reached the edge of the neighborhood, Arif felt a mixture of anticipation and nervousness. He realized that his ordinary life had intersected with something extraordinary, something that would shape the days to come. The woman's presence was no longer a mere encounter. It was a turning point, a story unfolding before his very eyes. And so, with a deep breath and a mixture of curiosity and respect, Arif prepared himself for what was to come next. The market had given him meat, yes, but it had also given him a story, a mystery, and a teacher in the form of the mysterious Apache widow. Today, the ordinary had become extraordinary, and Arif knew that he was on the verge of an adventure he could never have anticipated. Arif had barely taken a few steps into his neighborhood when he began to notice the subtle change in the air. The morning sun had climbed higher, and the familiar sounds of the neighborhood, the children laughing, the distant barking of dogs, the faint clatter of a cart, suddenly seemed quieter, almost as if the world was holding its breath. He felt the small charm the widow had given him in his pocket and turned it over nervously in his hand. The woman walked beside him, calm and composed as though nothing unusual had happened. But Arif's mind was racing. "This was supposed to be a simple trip," he muttered under his breath. "Buy meat, return home, and that's it. How did I end up in this situation?" She glanced at him with a soft smile. "Life rarely unfolds the way we expect it, Arif. Sometimes the smallest actions lead to the biggest stories." Arif nodded, though his anxiety remained. He had accepted her charm, yes, but he didn't fully understand what it meant. And now, walking with her, he began to sense that the townspeople were noticing more than he had realized. Heads turned as they passed, whispers followed them like shadows, and even the children paused mid-laugh to watch. What is happening?" he asked, finally breaking the silence. "Why is everyone staring at us?" The widow stopped walking and looked him directly in the eyes. "You have entered into a promise, Arif. A symbolic one, yes, but one that carries meaning in my tradition. Your acceptance of the charm was noticed by the community. They now see you as someone connected to me, and they respect that bond." Arif's eyes widened. "Connected to you? I didn't mean anything like that. I just accepted the charm because it seemed polite. She chuckled softly. Politeness has its place, but sometimes actions carry their own weight. You did not intend to create a bond, yet in my tradition, your acceptance was a clear signal. That is why the town is watching, not out of judgment but out of curiosity and respect. Arif scratched his head, feeling a mixture of panic and embarrassment. He had come out for meat, for goodness' sake, and now he was at the center of a cultural ritual he barely understood. The idea that he had unintentionally committed himself, even in a symbolic sense, was almost too much to process. "Wait, so what does this mean?" he asked. "Am I supposed to do something? I mean my family." The widow placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "Do not worry. Nothing will happen immediately. This is not about forcing you into anything you do not wish. It is about awareness, respect, and understanding. You have acknowledged me, and that acknowledgement has meaning. Beyond that, it is up to you how you choose to act." Arif took a deep breath and tried to steady himself. He had always considered himself a careful man, but life seemed determined to prove otherwise. Every step he had taken that morning had led him here, into a story far bigger than a simple trip to buy meat. As they walked further, Arif began to notice the subtle ways in which the townspeople were reacting. Some were nodding politely, recognizing the significance of his acceptance. Others whispered to each other, curious about what had happened. A few children stared wide-eyed, unsure whether this was a game or something serious. Arif felt a mixture of pride and embarrassment. Pride because he had acted with respect, embarrassment because he had no idea what he was actually supposed to do next. Do I need to tell my family about this?" he asked hesitantly. "Lena will not understand at all. She'll think I've gone completely mad." The widow smiled warmly. "Tell them if you wish, but do not feel compelled. This is your story to navigate. Part of the journey is understanding how your actions affect those around you and how you communicate those actions." Arif nodded slowly. He could imagine the conversation at home already. Lena would be sitting at the kitchen table, frowning, and asking why he had brought home a stranger and a strange charm. His children would be giggling uncontrollably, unsure what to believe. The thought made him both anxious and amused. "All right," he said finally. I will try to explain it, but it won't be easy." The widow's eyes sparkled with amusement. "Life's lessons are rarely easy, Arif. That is what makes them memorable." They continued walking, and soon they reached a small, shaded park near his house. The trees swayed gently in the breeze, casting patterned shadows on the ground. Arif paused, feeling the weight of the situation settling on his shoulders. "I have never been involved in something like this before," he admitted. "Everything I know about relationships, promises, or commitments, I thought I understood, but now I don't." The widow nodded thoughtfully. "Understanding is not instantaneous. It grows over time. What matters is your willingness to learn, to respect, and to act with integrity. That is the essence of the promise you have made, even if unintentionally." Arif sighed. He felt a mixture of relief and continued anxiety. Relief because she was kind and patient, and continued anxiety because he had no idea how to explain this to his family, or how to navigate the town's attention now that everyone seemed to know. Do you ever make mistakes like this?" he asked, trying to lighten the mood. The widow laughed softly, a sound that seemed to blend with the rustling leaves. "Everyone makes mistakes, Arif, even the wisest people. The difference is how we respond to them. You have been honest, respectful, and willing to learn. That is what matters most." Arif smiled faintly. Her words were comforting, yet he couldn't shake the feeling that the days ahead would be full of unexpected challenges. A simple trip to buy meat had led him into a situation that required patience, understanding, and courage, all things he had never imagined needing that morning. As they approached the edge of the park, Arif's neighbor, an elderly man named Seed, noticed them. Seed was known for being observant, often knowing more about the town's events than anyone else. He stopped in his tracks, his eyes widening slightly as he recognized the woman walking beside Arif. "Ah, so this is the story I've been hearing about," Seed said quietly, his tone a mix of curiosity and approval. "You have acknowledged her, Arif. That is significant." Arif blinked. "Acknowledged her? I didn't mean anything by it. I was just being polite." Seed smiled kindly. "Politeness often carries deeper meaning than we realize. The town will respect the bond you have formed. Do not fear judgment. Embrace the lesson." Arif felt his face heat up, but he also felt a strange sense of pride. He had not sought attention, yet he had acted in a way that commanded respect. And though he did not fully understand the cultural significance, he felt honored to be part of it. The widow looked at him approvingly. "You are learning quickly, Arif. Remember, understanding comes through experience, not explanation alone. The more you engage with life, the more clarity you will find." Arif nodded, feeling a mixture of relief, curiosity, and anticipation. He had stepped into a story far larger than himself, yet he was determined to navigate it with honesty and respect. By the time they reached the street leading to his home, Arif had begun to understand the first lessons of this unexpected adventure. Life was full of surprises, misunderstandings could lead to growth, and respect and patience could transform confusion into meaningful experience. Yet even as he approached his front gate, a small part of him worried. How would he explain this to Lena? How would he navigate the whispers of the townspeople? And most importantly, what did the future hold now that he had unknowingly entered into this symbolic promise with the widow? Taking a deep breath, Arif pushed open the gate and stepped into his yard, feeling the weight of the morning's events settle into a strange mixture of anxiety and excitement. He had started the day with the simplest of errands, buying meat, and now he had a story that would change his life forever. And as he looked at the small charm in his hand, he realized that his ordinary world had suddenly become a place of mystery, learning, and unexpected adventure. He had no idea what would come next, but one thing was certain. His life would never be the same again. Arif spent the next few days in a curious mix of excitement and anxiety. The small charm the widow had given him rested in a little box on his kitchen table, catching the sunlight whenever he passed by. Every time he glanced at it, he remembered the calm eyes and gentle smile of the widow, and the strange weight of the symbolic promise he had unknowingly made. It was a reminder that his ordinary life had been quietly swept into something extraordinary. He tried to carry on with his daily routine. Mornings were spent tending to small errands, afternoons helping his children with schoolwork, and evenings sitting with Lena, discussing household matters. Yet, no matter what he did, the image of the widow and her presence in the market lingered in his mind. He could not shake the feeling that he had to do something, anything, to properly navigate the situation without causing offense. Finally, he decided that the best course of action was to seek guidance. He went to the local elders in the town, wise men who had seen generations pass and knew the rhythms of life in the community. Arif explained the events of the morning as best he could, carefully choosing words that would not make him sound foolish. The elders listened patiently, nodding as he spoke. One of them, an older man named Hamid, finally spoke. "You have acted with honesty, Arif, and that is the most important thing. Misunderstandings happen when intentions are unclear. The widow is a respected member of the community, and your acknowledgement of her customs shows respect and courage." Arif sighed in relief, feeling a little less burdened. "So, I didn't mess everything up?" he asked, half smiling. Hamid chuckled. "Not at all. Life is full of moments like this. You are learning, and that is what matters. Just be sincere, humble, and attentive, and everything will unfold naturally." Encouraged by the elder's advice, Arif decided to approach the widow directly, hoping to clarify the situation and better understand her traditions. He found her at the same corner of the market where they had first met. Her trinkets were neatly arranged on the blanket, and she smiled warmly when she saw him approach. "Good morning, Arif," she said softly. "I see you have been thinking about our last encounter." "Yes," he replied, his tone a mixture of respect and nervousness. I wanted to understand better. I don't want to offend you or anyone in the town." The widow nodded approvingly. "That is wise. Understanding grows through dialogue and observation. Come, let us sit for a moment." They sat on a small wooden bench nearby, the sounds of the market bustling around them. Arif listened intently as the widow explained more about her culture, her experiences, and the symbolic meaning of the charm. She spoke about trust, respect, and the subtle ways in which humans connect with each other. "The charm you accepted is not about ownership or obligation," she explained. "It is about acknowledgement, recognition, and understanding. You have shown willingness to participate in this acknowledgement, and that is why the townspeople are noticing. They respect honesty and sincerity above all else." Arif nodded slowly, absorbing her words. "So, it's not about me, or forcing me to do something I don't want." "Exactly," she replied with a gentle smile. "It is about learning, awareness, and mutual respect. That is why this situation, while unexpected, is valuable. It teaches lessons that cannot be learned through ordinary routines alone." Arif smiled faintly, feeling a weight lift off his shoulders. He had feared the worst, that he had committed some irreversible mistake, but now he realized that the situation was an opportunity for growth. Over the next few days, Arif began to interact with the widow more regularly. He helped her carry small baskets, arranged her trinkets to catch the morning sunlight better, and even learned a few simple phrases from her language. In return, she shared stories of her homeland, lessons from her family, and wisdom about patience, kindness, and humility. The townspeople, noticing their interactions, began to treat Arif differently. Children ran up to him, asking questions about the widow and the charms. Vendors greeted him with nods of approval, while neighbors whispered quietly, acknowledging the respect he had shown. Arif felt a mixture of pride and amusement. A simple errand to buy meat had led him into becoming a figure of curiosity and admiration in his own town. One morning, while arranging the trinkets, the widow handed Arif a small basket of herbs. "These are for your family," she said. "They will bring freshness to your meals and a reminder of our shared understanding." Arif accepted the basket, smiling. "Thank you. Lena will love these, and thank you for helping me understand." The widow laughed softly. "You are learning quickly. Remember, life is full of lessons disguised as ordinary moments. You must pay attention and act with sincerity." Arif began to realize that the misunderstanding he had feared was transforming into an opportunity for personal growth. He was learning patience, empathy, and the importance of observing before judging. He was also discovering humor in unexpected situations, how a simple trip to the market could turn into a story that would be told and remembered in the town for years to come. One afternoon, as they were arranging trinkets together, a group of townspeople approached, curious to see the widow's collection. Arif felt a moment of nervousness, but remembered the lessons he had learned. He greeted them politely, answered their questions, and even shared a few stories about the widow's travels, careful to respect her privacy. The crowd seemed impressed, nodding and whispering among themselves. Some laughed quietly at Arif's awkward charm, while others admired his sincerity and respect. He felt a strange sense of pride. He had not expected to become a teacher or representative of cultural understanding, yet here he was, handling the situation with care and humor. That evening, as he returned home with the small basket of herbs, Arif reflected on the day. Lena greeted him with curiosity, noting the smile on his face and the sparkle in his eyes. "Something tells me your trip to the market wasn't ordinary today," she said teasingly. Arif laughed. "You could say that. Let's just say I learned a few new things about respect, culture, and surprises." Lena raised an eyebrow, smiling knowingly. "I'll take that as a warning for the next time you go out for meat." Arif chuckled. "Exactly. I think I'll stick to simpler errands for a while, but maybe life has other plans." In the days that followed, Arif continued to visit the widow, helping her with small tasks, learning her stories, and gradually understanding the deeper meaning of the charm. He began to see the humor in the situation, how a simple act of politeness had transformed into an adventure filled with lessons, respect, and community recognition. Through this experience, Arif discovered that life was richer and more complex than he had imagined. Ordinary routines could suddenly turn extraordinary. Misunderstandings could become opportunities, and even the smallest gestures could carry profound meaning. He realized that the widow, far from being a complication, was a teacher and a guide, helping him navigate the subtle lessons of life. And so, each day, Arif embraced the situation with a mixture of humor, patience, and genuine curiosity. The townspeople noticed his dedication, children watched his interactions with fascination, and neighbors whispered quietly, acknowledging the unusual but respectful bond he had formed. By the end of the week, Arif felt a sense of calm and understanding he had never experienced before. What had begun as a simple trip to buy meat had evolved into a journey of learning, growth, and human connection. He was no longer the same man who had walked to the market that morning. He was wiser, more observant, and more appreciative of life's unexpected lessons. And as he glanced at the charm on his kitchen table, he smiled, knowing that his ordinary world had been forever changed by an extraordinary encounter, one that had taught him the value of respect, patience, and the humor hidden in life's most unexpected moments. The days passed, and Arif found himself gradually adjusting to the extraordinary turn his life had taken. What had begun as a simple morning errand, walking to the market to buy meat, had blossomed into an experience that changed the way he viewed the world around him. He had come face to face with new customs, learned the meaning behind gestures he had previously ignored, and most surprisingly, developed a quiet friendship with the Apache widow. Each morning, Arif woke up with a sense of anticipation. He would glance at the small charm the widow had given him, now resting safely on the kitchen table, and smile. Its presence was a gentle reminder of the lessons he had learned, the value of understanding, the importance of respect, and the surprising ways that ordinary moments could carry extraordinary meaning. Arif had grown more confident in navigating the attention of the townspeople. He had learned that curiosity often masked admiration, and whispers and stares were usually signs of interest rather than judgment. The children of the neighborhood now ran up to him with excitement, eager to hear the stories he shared about the widow's travels and the small lessons embedded in her trinkets. Even the vendors, who once greeted him with casual nods, now smiled warmly, offering small greetings and encouragement. One afternoon, as Arif was walking through the market to check on the widow's stall, he noticed a small gathering of townspeople. They were waiting to see him, curious about the latest developments. Arif approached cautiously, feeling the familiar mixture of nervousness and amusement. "Good afternoon, Arif," one of the elders called out. "We've been waiting to hear how your new friendship is going." Arif laughed softly. "It is going well. I am learning a lot and the widow has been very patient with me." A few children giggled, teasing him gently. "Are you still following her everywhere?" one of them asked, their eyes wide with curiosity. Arif smiled, shaking his head. No, I've learned to respect her space, but I do visit and she shares her stories with me. There's so much to learn if you pay attention." The crowd seemed pleased with his response. The elders nodded approvingly, and a few of the adults whispered quietly to one another, acknowledging the care and respect Arif was showing. It was clear that he had turned a potentially confusing situation into a story of growth and understanding, earning the quiet admiration of the community. Later that day, Arif visited the widow at her stall. She was arranging her trinkets meticulously, the morning sun highlighting the bright colors of beads, carvings, and small charms. She looked up and smiled warmly as he approached. "Good afternoon, Arif," she said. "I see you are becoming more comfortable with this experience." "Yes," Arif replied, smiling. "I am learning how to navigate it with respect and understanding, and I am realizing that even small gestures can mean a lot." The widow nodded thoughtfully. "Exactly, that is the essence of life's lessons. The smallest actions often carry the greatest weight, and the most ordinary moments can become extraordinary if we pay attention." Arif looked at the trinkets spread out before him and noticed something he had not seen before. Among the small carvings and charms was a tiny wooden bird, identical to the one attached to the charm he had received. He picked it up, turning it over in his hand, and smiled. "This reminds me of the day we met," he said softly. "It feels like a symbol of the journey I've been on these past days." The widow smiled. "It is a symbol, yes. A reminder that life is full of surprises and that understanding and respect can turn confusion into clarity. You have embraced these lessons, Arif, and that is why this experience has been meaningful." As the days turned into weeks, Arif continued to visit the widow, learning more about her culture and stories. Each interaction taught him something new: patience, empathy, and the ability to see the world from another perspective. He also discovered a sense of humor in unexpected situations, how misunderstandings could lead to laughter and learning, rather than fear or frustration. One evening, as he returned home with a small basket of herbs and trinkets for his family, Arif reflected on how much his life had changed in such a short time. Lena greeted him with curiosity, her eyes bright with interest. "You've been spending a lot of time at the market," she said, a playful smile on her lips. "I hope it's not causing too much trouble." Arif laughed softly. "It's been educational. I've learned a lot about respect, culture, and even humor. And I've realized that life can surprise you in the most unexpected ways." Lena nodded, listening carefully. "It sounds like this experience has taught you more than you expected." "Yes," Arif admitted. "And it has made me appreciate how small gestures and understanding others' perspectives can make a big difference. Even something as simple as accepting a charm can change how people see you and how you see the world." As the evening settled in, Arif sat with his family, sharing stories about the widow's travels, her wisdom, and the small lessons she had imparted. The children listened wide-eyed, imagining distant lands and mysterious trinkets, while Lena smiled, appreciating the growth and curiosity that had blossomed in her husband. The town, too, began to notice the change in Arif. His interactions with the widow had become an example of patience, respect, and openness to learning. People admired the way he had navigated the situation, turning what could have been an awkward misunderstanding into a meaningful connection. Arif realized that he had not only grown personally, but he had also become a bridge between his community and a new culture, teaching others the value of empathy and understanding. One morning, as Arif visited the widow at her stall, she handed him a small bundle wrapped in colorful cloth. "This is for you," she said, "a token of our shared understanding and a reminder that life's lessons are ongoing. May it guide you in the days to come." Arif carefully unwrapped the bundle and found a small, intricately carved box filled with tiny charms, beads, and a small note. The note read, "Life is a journey of learning. Respect, curiosity, and kindness will always guide you. Your friend." He felt a warmth in his heart. The experience had been more than he could have imagined. What began as a simple trip to buy meat had transformed into a journey of personal growth, cultural understanding, and lasting friendship. As he walked home, Arif reflected on the past days. He thought about the market, The first encounter with the widow, the misunderstandings, and the lessons learned. He realized that life was unpredictable, filled with surprises that could either confuse or enlighten, depending on how one approached them. He had chosen curiosity, respect, and humor, and in doing so, he had discovered a richer, more meaningful world. When he returned home, he shared the new charms and stories with his family. Lena listened intently, the children giggling as they examined the small trinkets. Arif smiled, feeling a sense of fulfillment he had never experienced before. He had learned that life's most ordinary moments, like a trip to the market, could hold extraordinary potential for growth, understanding, and connection. Days turned into weeks, and Arif continued his visits to the widow, each time learning something new, each time understanding the deeper meaning behind seemingly simple gestures. He became more confident, patient, and aware of the subtle ways in which human interactions could carry profound significance. The market itself had become a place of wonder for Arif. Every stall, every vendor, every passerby seemed to hold a story waiting to be discovered. He had learned to look beyond the surface, to pay attention, and to embrace the unexpected with an open heart. In the end, Arif realized that the charm, the widow, and the unusual events of that morning were more than just a series of coincidences. They were a reminder that life was a journey of learning, that respect and understanding could transform confusion into clarity, and that even the smallest actions could carry lasting meaning. He smiled as he placed the charm back on the kitchen table, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. The trip to the market had started as a simple errand, but it had become a story he would tell for years to come, a story of humor, respect, learning, and the extraordinary lessons hidden in ordinary days. And as Arif looked out the window at the bustling streets of his town, he knew one thing for certain: life would continue to surprise him, but now he was ready to meet those surprises with patience, humor, and an open heart. He had gone to the market for meat, and in doing so had discovered the true flavor of life itself.